This week I started adding alternate fire modes to the weapons in SCØUR. Instead of simply making them stronger versions of primary attacks, I wanted each alt fire to use a weapon's mechanics in a different way. So I ended up with everything from venting an overheated rifle to punching enemies with an explosive grenade. SCØUR is a fast-paced Biopunk FPS where everything is made out of flesh instead of metal. I'm going for the ultra kill style combat and visuals mixed with the disturbing Biopunk world of Scorn. Before I could start making the actual attacks, I first had to change some of the existing weapon code. I already had support for alt fires, but I wanted a more cleaner foundation before building more of them. Especially since every weapon will use its secondary attack in a completely different way. Once that was set up, I could finally start experimenting with the individual weapons. I started on the shotgun, which was the simplest alt fire so far. Normally the shotgun fires a single blast, but using the alt fire doubles the amount of pellets at the cost of consuming twice as much ammo. It's a pretty straightforward trade-off. More damage and a much larger blast, but you'll burn through your ammo faster. The rifle is where I started experimenting a lot more. Since the weapon already built up heat while firing, I wanted the alt fire to interact directly with the overheat system. Once the rifle reaches its warning state, you can release all that accumulated heat as a powerful vent burst. The hotter the rifle is when you use it, the more damage the blast deals, the stronger the knockback becomes, and the more intense the effect gets. Using the vent burst also rapidly cools the rifle back down, so instead of overheating being purely a punishment, you can deliberately build up heat and turn it into attack. I also added a shockwave to make the shockwave more visible. And there's a short recovery period afterwards, which gets longer depending on how overheated the rifle was. After that became my favorite alt fire so far, the grenade punch. Normally, the grenade launcher fires these regrowing explosive balls, but instead of launching the grenade, the alt fire makes you punch an enemy with it. The grenade explodes directly on impact, dealing massive close range damage and knocking nearby enemies back. I wanted this to work like a last resort attack. You're using an explosive weapon at point blank range, so it should feel completely excessive. I made a dedicated punching animation for the weapon and added an explosive effect to make the impact much more obvious. But I'm not sure about one thing. Should using the grenade punch also damage the player? Let me know what you think. Finally, I started working on the acid spewer. And since the weapon is basically a living creature vomiting acids, its alt fire is burping. Enemies caught inside the acid cloud take damage over time, giving the acid spewer an AoE option for dealing with groups of enemies. The system is still being developed, but I already have the main gameplay logic, the burping animation, and the first version of the acid cloud's effects. There's still some tweaking left to do, especially with the visuals and balancing, but the main attack is now working. If you'd like to try SCØUR for yourself, there's now a free playtest demo available on itch.io. It includes the current movement, weapons, enemies, and lets you experience the core gameplay yourself. Keep in mind it's still an early prototype, so things will continue to change as development progresses. If you do give it a try, I'd love to hear your feedback, so feel free to join the Discord. Link is in the description. I really like the direction these alt fires are taking. Instead of every weapon just having another way to deal damage, I'm trying to make the secondary attacks interact with what makes each weapon unique. And there's still a few weapons left that need their own alt fires. Next up, finishing the acid cloud, creating alt fires for the rest of the remaining weapons, tweaking and balancing existing attacks, and then changing and balancing the first chapter and enemy encounters. As always, if you got ideas, feedback or things you want to see in SCØUR, drop them below or join the Discord for a few daily updates. You can also follow me on Instagram, and I see you guys next time.